Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. Today I wanted to talk about and do a review of a new title from Alterna Comics. It is called The Actual Roger. And like I said, it's a new one. It's issue 1 in a 5-issue series. And definitely was really looking forward to this one. I've been looking forward to this one since it was announced. It is from, as you can see here, from the director of the Tick animated series. So I'm definitely interested to see what they've cooked up here. I'm assuming it's going to be funny and interesting. You can see it's got a good cover here. You got this little kid in the spotlight, you know, and then everybody else just like, you know, wait, you're Roger? The Roger? Yes, I'm the actual Roger. And then even here, like, you know, welcome to your first issue, Roger. We hope you survive the experience. Like, you can tell, like, obviously it's going to be about this kid, and maybe he's not the greatest superhero. We'll see. You know, we'll have to see as the series goes on what happens here. So we'll jump into it here. It starts off with this splash page where you see this giant whale in a bikini top and and a grass skirt, and you see this, you know, and the superhero who's battling him, and then there's Roger, and then Roger pops up here and he starts to tell you, like, you know, he's basically telling you his story. The interesting thing is you don't know right away, like, what's going on. So anyway, you get into this world, and he's talking about how he was, like, all into superheroes, and now he's not really into superheroes anymore, even the real ones. So he's got, like, this comic book of Magnanimo, and you know, he even mentions him being a real superhero. So obviously they are in a world where there are real superheroes. Now he's going to be into basketball. He decided he doesn't want to be into that anymore. He's going to be into basketball. And then he's got his friend here who is mad at him because he wanted to play superheroes and he didn't want to. And then this thing comes down from the sky, like, while they're arguing, and lands in the yard, and he ends up pushing him. His friend Clay actually pushes Roger, and he lands on top of the thing, and you can see, like, the leaf here, like, sticks to his shirt, and it's got, like, the burn mark from whatever the heck that was. And then Clay, his friend Clay, starts actually eating the dirt, which is definitely a little weird. But you know what, before I go any further, let's just talk about the art style. There's definitely a unique art style to this that, to me, you know what I didn't do? I always like to do this. The credits. Words and art by Hank Tucker. Letterer is Wes Locker, and the editor was Aaron Kohut. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But Hank Tucker is the guy from The Tick, the director of the animated series. Not the creator, it's not Ben Edlund, but he's the director of the show. So you know he had definite input. So anyway, the art style here, to me, this is an art style that I haven't seen in probably decades, really. Like, it reminds me a lot of comic strip art in a way, sort of, but not quite, like Little Orphan Annie, things like that. Like, just in terms of, like, the face, like, when you look at Roger's face, like, you see his eyes. He has there's no outer eye. It's just the black with a little highlight, and that's it. And everyone's a little bit different. But when you look, you know, like, you can see, like, there he has the white. And in most other cases, there really is no white. You know, and you can see his mother has them and stuff like that. So, anyway, he finds out eventually that he actually has the superpower of being able to fly. The only thing is he can only fly like 1.5 feet off the ground. And as soon as he starts and he goes outside, like, you know, the dad is trying to get him, trying to stop him, telling him, like, you probably need a permit for that kind of thing and whatever. And then a bunch of helicopters show up. Now, the weird thing I will say about this is I was never quite sure when this was taking place. When I looked at... It's funny, because when I looked at the character designs, and the way the story was being told, and the way it was presented, it's funny because I immediately assumed that this was maybe like the early 60s, the 50s, something like that. Just even the way the father is presented with the pipe and everything, and the way the mother is dressed, like the way people are dressed, even like look at the kids, the way they're dressed, like it just struck me as this was like an older time. Now, I get the feeling the more I thought about it that this is actually like some sort of alternate Earth or whatever you want to call it. Like it is meant to, I guess, to maybe evoke like the sense of, let's say, like The Incredibles, where you don't actually know when the you know, that movie takes place, because the Art Deco design of the buildings and the costumes and all that stuff screams like 60s, but they have technology that would be more modern. So it's tough. You know, it's one of those, like, it almost takes place out of time, I would say. But they do make a couple of references. They make a reference to CNN, and they make a reference to an iPhone later in the comic. But then here, like, he talks about, like, when the army shows up, like, all these helicopters, tanks, and everything, like, they all just show up, and he says the whole army showed up. It was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Now, that to me sounds like a dated reference. Like, what kid today would know what a Bugs Bunny cartoon is, honestly? And I like the dude tells them, like, this guy shows up, tells them they can leave, and they all just, like, zoop, they're gone. So anyway, these people approach. They're from the government, and they tell his family that, you know, he's a happy little accident, but we want to keep it that way. Like, I mean, essentially they're saying, like, you know, superpowers are dangerous. Your son could be dangerous. We want to take him on so that he will be trained and we can make sure he's not dangerous. And it could be dangerous for you as well, because if he's evil or if someone else comes looking for him, you know, it could be dangerous in that regard too. You know, so you just don't want, like, they don't want, you know, villains to come looking for him and end up hurting the family, so they tell them they have to order. I thought it was kind of funny, like, they told them they have to order a costume. Like, they literally have to, like, send away for a costume. Like, there's a catalog, they have to choose one, so they order a costume. This not UPS delivers it. They open it up, he tries it on, it's ridiculous looking on him, you know. So then he's upset, so then they take the cape off, which I really don't think was that much better, but, you know, hey. And then it turns out that his friend Clay, also who ate the dirt, also developed power to turn himself into clay. Like, he oozes in through the window, and, you know, he basically, like, tells him he wants him to tell the other guys, tell the government guys about him so that he can be a happy accident too. And it turns out, like, was he listening in the whole time? Like, what's the deal? Something's not right. This guy's there's something wrong with him. And they mentioned that possibly he's autistic earlier in the episode, in the issue. And, you know, it's just definitely a little odd. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm assuming that as we go on, like, somehow Clay is probably going to wind up being a villain. But we'll see. You never know. So then anyway, I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. And they make Roger it was announced that Magnanimo is looking for a new sidekick. Apparently something terrible happened to his previous sidekick. And so they make Roger his sidekick, and, you know, he's like, all he does, like, Roger is showing him what he can do, and he's just like, what the heck? Like, but the other guy's like, you know, this is marketable. He's a kid. This will be good for your image. And so then eventually he gets a call that there's a villain on the loose. Behemoth. I like that name. That's a great name. And so he's going to go, but he can't just leave the kid alone. So he's going to bring Roger with him. But he's going to, like, leave him for, like, a babysitter, essentially. And that's it. And then we're to be continued. So that was the first issue of the actual Roger by Alterna Comics. It's a good setup issue, for sure. There's not really a lot of action, but it's a good origin story of at least explaining where his powers came from and setting up the whole thing. You see Clay right there. Like, setting up, like, what's gonna happen with him, I wonder. And then there's the government guys, and, like, what's the deal with them? And, you know, what happened to Magnanimo's original sidekick. So there's definitely a good setup here. Hopefully the payoff will be good. It wasn't, I will be honest, it wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be. Although maybe that was my fault for assuming that a book from the director of The Tick was going to be a straight comedy. I think it's got funny elements for sure, and I do think as it goes on, it might be more funny as it goes on. But it's definitely a little more serious than I thought it would be. But it's not 100% serious. It's hard to define. It's in that middle ground. So I would definitely recommend picking it up. I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's got a really good setup. And it's a 5-issue series. So there's a lot of room there for things to happen. A lot of ground to cover. So we'll see what actually happens with the actual Roger. As it goes on. But that's my review of the actual Roger #1 from Alterna Comics. Remember, all Alterna Comics, $1.50. How could you go wrong? So anyway, if you like this video, hit the like button, click to subscribe, jingle the bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at jam_creates. All that good stuff. I'm on Instagram, the whole 9 yards. Let me know in the comments what you think of this comic, if you read it, or if you maybe want to go read it now, or if you were looking forward to it, if you knew about it, if you didn't know about it, if this is your first exposure to it, let me know. I definitely would love to hear some feedback from you guys. I've got more Alterna Comics coming. I have this was part of my first delivery of my all Alterna 2019 subscription. So I'm getting every single book that Alterna Comics puts out this year delivered to my house, so I don't have to worry about missing them. So that's awesome. And I'm gonna have more reviews. I've got more stuff coming up from that delivery. I'll do reviews of that stuff, other videos, and that's it. I will talk to you soon. Peace. Peace around Magnanimo right there. Peace.